Sir Keir Starmer's migrant deal with the French could be in tatters. He is relying on the French doing everything.
France has now agreed that they will now start to intervene in French waters in order to prevent small boats. That hasn't happened yet, but the previous government spent 6 years trying to persuade them. They have now agreed as a result of the pressure that we've been putting on, the discussions that we have had, and we need that to start.
Well, today it emerged that the French might not be able to make the necessary legal changes to intercept those boats in the water because their government is possibly about to collapse. Sir Keir Starmer is also relying on the French playing ball and accepting illegal migrants back under this so-called one-in, one-out scheme.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
Well, I think something has gone badly wrong behind the scenes. Look at this. This is from the government's website. The deal began on August the 6th. It clearly says that the UK will make referrals to France within 3 days. And the French authorities will be expected to respond within 14 days. That time frame is now up. Where are the return flights to France? The government has changed its rhetoric. Supposedly, it's now going to happen in the coming weeks.
First detentions we want to take place in a matter of days, and then we will be referring those cases immediately to France. We are ready to resist any legal challenge that comes forward as well, but we do want to see returns taking place in a matter of weeks, but we will need to work those processes through.
So they will be taking place in August?
So, again, we need to work those processes through, but we want to see the returns themselves take place as swiftly as possible.
You can't
bear in mind, people will be detained until they are returned.
But
so
couldn't say. There has obviously been a problem going on behind the scenes. We actually put all of this to the Home Office. We said, look, hang on a minute, what's changed? Why haven't we had any flights yet? They won't comment on operational matters. Sir Keir Starmer is also relying on the Germans to disrupt the transportation of small boats to Calais. So that's out of our control as well. That's up to the Germans. And Sir Keir Starmer's Attorney General has said he will never leave the ECHR.
The new United Kingdom government will never withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights.
So, Sir Keir Starmer is also relying on foreign judges in foreign courts to say that we can or cannot deport anyone, which is interesting, isn't it? Compare that to Nigel Farage's plans.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
Forget the French, forget the Germans, forget the ECHR, and a random judge from Bosnia and Herzegovina telling us that we can't deport a child rapist. He wants Britain's borders to be defended and protected by Britain and Britain alone. He wants out of international courts, out of international treaties. We decide who we deport, we decide where we send them and when. The only people we'd have to rely on to protect our borders would be us. Now, the only sticking point might have been whether or not the Taliban would take a returns deal. Well, they've basically already agreed, haven't they? And even the Rwandans have piped up again, saying that they'd be willing to do a deal with Mr Farage. And today it's emerged that under this Labour government, civil servants are being paid £75 extra per asylum application they complete. Now, I am concerned that this may lead to more people just being waved through. Now, look, just take a look at this letter signed by Sir Keir Starmer in 2020. In it, he says he wants to close immigration detention centres, liberalise family reunion laws, let asylum seekers work and give foreigners the vote. And it turns out He loves foreigners so much that he's willing to outsource our border protection to the Germans, the French, and a load of foreign judges. The public have a clear choice now, don't they? You have a choice. Rely on other countries to protect our borders, or do it ourselves.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have got Associate Editor for the Daily Express, Sam Lister, political commentator Chris Worrell, and broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov. Sam, is Keir Starmer in a bit of trouble over this French deal now on two fronts? The French not having to stop the boats and also whether or not they're actually going to take anyone back?
I mean, I think the problem is, Patrick, it kind of doesn't really matter if the French government collapses and the deal collapses on the back of it as well, because it was never really going to work, was it? I mean, 50 people... It's neither here nor there. We've had 28,000 already this year, 50% more than we had by the same point last year. 50 people here or there going back to France in return for us taking 50 people back is not a deterrent, is it? And we know that. So I think that side of it is almost irrelevant. We know that Starmer, he jettisoned Rwanda. Rwanda was a deterrent. He does not have a deterrent option. And yeah, so I think it's almost irrelevant if France reneges on that deal.
Is there a key difference there, Chris, which is essentially that, yeah, reform, whether people like their policy or not, it is all about us being in control of our own borders and doing it our way, whereas Sir Keir Starmer seems to want the French, the Germans and the ECHR to be in charge of it?
I mean, what Keir Starmer's done is he's ham-fisted himself. We're at the behest with the French, and we've always been like that. And if we take it back to Brexit, I mean, people are fed up of the situation now. People talk about 14 years of the Conservative government. What's happened in the last year has been utter chaos, beyond anyone's wildest imagination. And there's a number of Labour voters leaving in their streams. But to the point is the Conservative Party, during Brexit, put forward a repatriation agreement, which, under Matthew Pennycook, who said, under the ECHR, we're going to end up like Belarus or Russia. This guy said he'd rather vote for no deal is better than a bad deal. But we've left with no deportation agreement. So the Labour and the Lib Dems, so I know you say you didn't vote for Labour, maybe voted for the Lib Dems, I don't know, are all responsible for this. But we've got to see what is the way of going forward. Reform's put forward a British Bill of Rights. We've had Rajiv Shah, who's an expert lawyer in the space, says it's going to be sort of repurposing a lot of the same words as the ECHR, and it's going to have a lot of issues with that. You need judicial implementation. I think Katie Lamb and Robert Jenrick are the only real ones who've been putting stuff forward in this space. But we do have to leave the ECHR, and we've seen Jack Straw earlier, as Matt Goodwin mentions. It's the only way forward.
OK, yeah, Nina, I mean, there is a divide, isn't there? Keir Starmer being willing to rely on other countries and other governments to protect our borders, whereas Nigel Farage wants to take all of that into our own hands.
He's not relying on other countries. He is trying to work with other countries to get them to help us. Because, quite frankly, Brexit stopped any kind of cooperation we had. As I've said before on this sofa, in 2019, the number of people crossing the Channel on boats was just under 1,900. After Brexit, after Boris screwed up our relationship completely with France, there was no cooperation. So you cannot send people...
Is that not in any way the French's fault? Like, do you not look at them and you think, hang on a minute, you'd be speaking German if it wasn't for us. Maybe you could have done us a
listen. The French and the British have always been like that with each other. But if, you know, in a divorce... If you've ever broken up in a relationship, which I assume...
Remarkably, over the period of my life, some women have dared to leave me.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, how was your relationship after that? Is it very... You know, did you do everything in your power to smooth the path of the life of the person who has left you? No, you do not. So there is that angst. Let's not pretend that the French, you know, and most of Europe were pissed off that we left. So you cannot send people back to countries that will not take them. You can't push them back to France.
Okay.
So we have been working hard with France and with Germany.
But the point on that now, Nida, is that there's clearly something that's gone wrong behind the scenes because the deadline...
No.
Well, yes.
No.
Because the deadline to start sending people back has passed. You would have thought...
Yvette Cooper said some weeks ago, she said it will take some weeks for them to start processing.
Because the French have the capacity to reject whoever we say that we want to send back.
Well, let's just see. I think so. And you're talking about only 50 a week. 2 months of 50 a week, and you've got Rwanda. 400 hotel places. After those 400 hotel places were filled, what do you do then, Sam?
Well, I think the difference is Rwanda was obviously not a European country, so people who were fleeing into France or the rest of Europe hoping to get to the UK, who then get sent to Rwanda, that's a very different prospect to being sent back to France.
It was our own High Court that deemed that Rwanda was not a safe country to go to.
I have been to Rwanda. I went to Rwanda with the former Home Secretary Priti Patel, and
I wouldn't get in a lift with that woman. Never mind an aeroplane.
A certain racist element. And James Cleverly, the former Foreign Secretary, has said this himself, that actually the left's approach to Rwanda has a certain racist whiff about it. There's no for anybody to go.
No.
It's like
they themselves admit that they're human. They themselves admit that human rights is a work in progress. There. What about all the?
It's a country that has recovered.
What about the war on its borders with the Democratic Republic of Congo?
30 years ago, and
I'm not talking about the genocide. I'm talking about activists who have been disappeared.
Actively seeking young men to repopulate this country.
How big a problem is it for Sir Keir Starmer? Let's say that the French government collapses, which all the noises suggest that I think it possibly is going to. So we don't end up with that deal for the French to have to do anything in the water. And then it turns out in a week or so's time, when more people start to pick up on the fact that where are these deportation flights, that the French have decided to reject people. How bad is this for Keir Starmer?
It's terrible. I mean, with France are in an absolute chaos at the moment. Got a 43 billion deficit they need to fill. The fact of the matter is there was no deportation agreement. There was a repatriation agreement separate to the withdrawal agreement on the table. Matthew Pennycook voted to delay it under the Benn Act, and then under the Letwin Act, the Lib Dems and Labour voted that down too. They got rid of all the leverage under Brexit. So the Labour Party and anyone else cannot say, oh, we just inherited this from the Tories, because they were the ones that took all the leverage away from those Brexit negotiations. And if anyone can disagree with that, I don't see where it is. You've got Matthew Pennycook coming out here saying all stuff are going to end up like Belarus. I mean, this guy's actually responsible for the Shadow Brexit Secretary, for kibosh.
On the other hand, it's only Russia and Belarus who have withdrawn from the ECHR.
Australia, Canada, what about these places?
Most of the rest of the world...
We're talking about ECH, we're talking about Europe, we're not talking about the rest of the world.
Most of the rest of the world...
But also there's the International Refugee Committee.
OK. All right.
It's a disaster, though. That's
all right. Well, there we go. I mean, look, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they'll surprise us all, and one of these flights will take off to France next week. I would have thought if you're going to make such a big song and dance over it, you get those flights off the ground immediately. And the rhetoric has changed now. They're still saying it's the coming weeks. Anyway, the Home Office said, we have already detained the first group of people to cross the Channel after their arrival at Western Jet Foyle, and they are being held in detention until they can be returned to France. At that point, the en route scheme to the UK will also accept its first applications. Officials are currently going through applicants and have communicated with all those who have applied within 24 hours of receiving the application. I will leave it to you to pick the bones out of that. Now,